Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's virtual program, a collaborative series between the Art and Design Gallery and the Museum's Gallery FIT. This is our 8th program. Today, William Lowe has organized Timeline, a conversation with FIT illustration students and alumni. The artists will discuss their work's evolution and their hopes for future projects. The presenters are Jason Raish from FIT class of 2006, welcome back, and Rebekie Bennington, class of 2015, Anastasia Anderson, FIT class of 2021, and William Lowe, class of 1981, Parsons School of Design. I'm also joined today by my collaborators, Gabrielle Lauricella, Campus Exhibitions Coordinator from the Museum at FIT. She will monitor questions that you can put in the chat. Everybody's already using it, thank you. And Losang Sewang, Exhibition Coordinator, operating the slideshow. Please mute yourself if you haven't already. Thank you, everyone. And William, take it away.
Thank you. So, well, it looks like we are finally at the tail end of this really crazy, long, stressful year. And I know that's been really hard for everyone, especially for all of our students who are working in isolation. But I'm a glass half full kind of person, and I like to think that all these obstacles are really an opportunity for each of us to rise to these ridiculous challenges, ultimately to do things differently. And as artists, to always be curious and find ways of being able to reinvent ourselves. The online talk that we are sitting in on right now is a perfect example of our resilience, because it gives us all an opportunity gives all the speakers an opportunity to tell their stories, to share their art, and in doing so, it will ultimately bring us all closer to our humanity. And in the illustration department, that's what we really do. We try to teach our students how to develop their craft and use that to tell their stories through their art. And in my beginning lectures at the beginning of each semester, I always like to try to talk about the program and frame it using a music analogy. So in the AAS, I will just say that my students are basically learning how to play the instruments, how to work on the scales, how to read music notation, develop things like timing, beat, dynamics. And then if you follow that notation carefully, you'll begin to hear the melody of the song. Now in the BFA, you're going to take that skill and you're going to begin to make music. While the musical score is still really important, muscle memory starts to kick in and you begin to relax enough to start to feel the music. And that's the great part of it, that even when you're playing in a group, an orchestrated piece, you're going to start to listen to the texture of the notes of all the other instruments as you all as a group come together to express changing moods of the musical score. At its highest level, music can even be something like jazz, a jazz score, where you may be playing with a small group and you as a soloist will break out into a solo, improvising, moving in and out on tangents, while the other musicians maintain a backbeat until you slowly work your way back into melody. All of these are the steps that you really need to follow before you can start to tell your story. I jokingly will tell my students that I want you to be able to create art that's going to make your mother cry. And not that I want you to make your mom cry, but really your parents or your dear friends, they are the ones who know you. And if you create artwork that touches an emotional chord, that's when you realize the power of what you've done. With that, I'm so proud to be working with and alongside my guests, Jason Raish, Rebekie Bennington, and my current senior illustration student, Anastasia Anderson. I'm inviting each person to quote unquote connect the dots for us and to share the timeline of their artistic journey. And we invite you all to post your questions in the chat area, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions at the end of the talk. So let's begin. Jason Raish, class of 2016. I knew him 15 years ago as a young man. He was a very quiet student. I'm going to embarrass you, okay? Working diligently off into the corner on a computer, but I was immediately impressed by his intensity and his incredible talent. I lost touch with him, but I was heartened to see that he made appearances once in a while at the Society of Illustrators annual. And now it's just so great to have him with us as faculty. So Jason, take it away.
Great, thanks, William. Yeah, I can say I graduated from FIT in 2006, so I've been at it for 14 years. I probably kind of had a little attitude back then. I remember, thinking that I knew so much, and now I'm on the receiving end of that in my classes also. But there's always more to learn. So. Okay, so this was, I guess, the start of my style now. Of course, I went to the Society of Illustrators. I saw, artists that I like and just immediately started ripping them off, which people do, but hopefully everyone grows out of that. So I saw an artist I like, so I started doing this pencil on paper, scanned and Photoshop coloring thing, caricature, like hyper realistic stuff. And this was done, I think, in 6th or 7th semester. So I was on my way to getting a style. I know a lot of people are worried about that. This is the first job I ever did. This was probably in the 8th semester for the New York, not Post, the New York Press, which was like it's now doesn't exist anymore. So it was in one of those free newspaper kiosks, like next to the Village Voice and stuff on the sidewalk. I flubbed it. It was my first job. I don't even remember what this was about, but it paid $50, and it's very embarrassing to. I was horrified when I saw it on Instagram earlier. I was like, oh no, no one's ever supposed to see this. But yeah, this is my first job, and hopefully we'll see in the next coming slides that I got out of that. So then this was a couple years after FIT. I'd cut my teeth working in the trenches for various free newspapers, like the Village Voice and LA Weekly and places like that. I moved to China. Actually, I went on a trip for 5 years, living all around in all these different countries. So I was inspired by all the stuff I saw. And so this was one I made in China, this was for Tiger Beer, the Singapore beer company. And so it's evolving. This was for Banana magazine. It's like an Asian American magazine. This one's, sitting alone at lunch because your weird Asian lunch has caused you to be ostracized by the rest of your school. So a lot of people really, this resonates with them. So it's nice to have a chance to say something with my illustrations also. So that was a nice assignment for this one. And now we're on to more current work. So I recently got into alternative movie posters, which are officially licensed posters. Like the one on the left was for the Dark Knight Batman movie. And this was a dream of mine. And so I worked hard on a pitch poster and pitched it around, and it ended up getting me work doing alternative movie posters. So that was great. Oh, and a little tidbit in the back, the Joker had a gun. And then whoever, DC or whoever, said there can't be any guns in this, which is ridiculous because there's so many guns in this movie. But that's just a little illustration behind the scenes thing. So then I had to put in the finger gun, which is a very jokery thing to do, but there's the behind the scene details you never hear about. And then on the right I do a lot of fashion stuff now. Also started as personal projects, but it's turned into actual fashion clients. So, personal work does get you paid and does get you attention, and they can tell if you are really into what you're working on, as opposed to, another boring illustration for some newspaper about tax code or something, with some guy in a suit holding dollar bills or something. So I think those are all my slides, right?
Thank you, Jason. That was awesome. So Rebekie Bennington from the class of 2015. The first time I met her, she was in my Adobe Illustrator class of all classes. I think it was 2014. And for those of you who actually know Adobe Illustrator, it's a very, very difficult program to be creative in because of the overall process. And I was just blown away by what she was able to do with vector shapes and how talented she was. And she brings a lot of maturity to the class. So I did lose touch with her, but I know that she was able to get into the animation field through our very own Dan Scheffelman, who introduced her to work. And she started working Blue Sky Animation Studios and Nickelodeon. So I'd love to present Rebekie. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you, William. Hi, I'm Rebekie Bennington. So I entered FIT as a bit more of an adult student. I graduated high school in 2002 and wanted to pursue animation. And so I went to a really expensive school for a year, only to find out that I didn't actually want to be an animator at all. And so I kind of floated around for a couple of years. I got a job in finance and it was terrible. I was doing some work for like role-playing books here and there. I was painting on my own. But I really wasn't making enough that I could survive on, and didn't know how to make a career out of this thing that I like to do. Luckily, a friend of mine was in New York from Austria doing her MFA at FIT, and she told me to quit my stupid finance job and go back to school and finish my degree in illustration. And so I did that, and I went to FIT. And so for the first 3 of my 4 years at FIT, I was pretty convinced I was going to pursue some kind of book illustration. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, though. But over time, I did realize that what I really liked to do was world build and, draw weird creatures, stuff in jars. I really love drawing food carts and strange, fantastical cities. So I started kind of doing a little more of that in my illustration. And in my senior year, Dan Scheffelman started presenting more animation concepts in the curriculum. And he recommended me for an internship at Nickelodeon. And previously at Blue Sky as well. So I did a short week at Blue Sky, but then a really long internship at Nickelodeon. And they ended up hiring me after I graduated. And I'm still there. I was originally hired as a storyboard revisionist. But they would occasionally send me some design work. And I was there until 2019, until last year. And I realized I didn't really want to do storyboards so much, and that I really wanted to pursue the design aspect of animation. And so I decided to move out west to kind of figure out how to do backgrounds. So I've been here since May of 2019 in LA. I'm in LA right now. And it's been amazing. I'm doing really well out here. I'm busier than ever. I'm working currently still with Nickelodeon and with Starburns Industries. I just did some backgrounds for SpongeBob. And I found that I just really enjoy drawing the props, drawing the world that these characters are gonna live in. And it's a very fulfilling, fun thing. And along with Illustrator also, working with William, I now do work for a lot of web applications, educational applications for preschoolers, and that's actually all vector artwork. So thanks, William. I guess I can talk. This is one of my early pieces from the illustration program when I was using more colored pencils, but I think you can really tell here that I like designing stuff. I really like to draw on this dog and kind of getting an animation element into traditional media. And then here I'm starting to sort of figure out my background design. I think this is one of the first animation sort of projects that Dan Scheffelman pitched to us. It's taking a painting and kind of making a background out of it. And I didn't understand what I was doing. And then it's fun looking back at it now and being like, oh yeah, no, that's totally how it works. Like you draw it from different angles. If you're working in 3D, you need to give the 3D artists, everything they need to sculpt a 3D area. So it kind of all worked out. And then here you can see my love of weird background stuff and lots of little tchotchkes and things in jars and stuff that you get to design when you do prop work and background work. And then on the bottom there is an actual animation background that I recently both designed and painted. for an upcoming project. It's also a big animation design based on a 60s comic book series that's going to be an animated series soon.
Thank you, Rebekie. That was great.
Yeah, no problem.
Great to see the work again, too. Thank you. My next guest is Anastasia Anderson, and she is my only current student in the group, and the only one who I've not had a chance to meet in person yet. So, and even in this online environment, I could see just how talented she is. And one thing that really caught my attention was that she was one of the few students that I've ever had who was actually willing to admit when a piece that she was working on wasn't working for her. And she would actually just go so far as to say she hated it and was willing to start all over again. And that's pretty extraordinary to find someone to do that. And I basically reassured her, telling her that work ethic will serve her really well when she breaks into the field. So with that, I'd like to present Anastasia. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Anastasia. I'm a current FIT student, and I'll be graduating in May. I live in the Bronx right now. And a fun fact, Professor Lowe, is actually we did meet. Freshman year, I was in the computer lab working on a very terrible digital illustration because it was the first time I ever touched it. And you taught me about like basic lighting techniques or something. So that was the first time I ever met you, but I don't know if you'll remember it. It was 3 years ago. Yeah, so my name is Anastasia. I currently am pursuing a sort of style and children's book marketing. But when I started out in high school and younger, because I just started drawing very little, I had no formal training. And when I went to FIT, I applied the night before the deadline closed with a portfolio of random things that I found around the house that I could whip together with a watercolor palette. Looking back at my portfolio, I don't know how they let me in, and it's cracking me up. And since then, I've discovered every medium under the sun, including oil painting from Professor Cam. And I guess because I was such a blank slate, I was able to really soak in everything from all my professors about, digital illustration, because I never touched that before. So I felt, kind of on the outside going in, just because I had like all these students from these art high schools had this amazing background in digital art and oil painting. And I didn't even touch anything other than watercolor and craft acrylics. These are some of my first works. These I made in high school for art competitions. I just used cheap craft acrylic paints. As you can see, I didn't really use reference. I knew I loved more sort of genre scene illustrations and fantastical work. And I loved sort of vibrant ethnic cultures, and I like to incorporate that in my art. So I did a lot of Egyptian art and medieval art, and here I have American Indian art. I love drawing people and eyes, so you rarely see any kind of landscape or background from me. I don't know if they're gonna, this is acrylic. So this is sophomore year. So you can see the difference, same medium, but just learning how to use reference and working from light and shadows. I can't believe that I was able to paint that based on what I was working on when I entered as a freshman. This was actually Ray Lago. So this is an oil painting from my oil painting class with Cam. Again, never used oil paint before going into this school. So the difference and the testament to how awesome our professors are is just shown in those contrasting works. I still can't believe that this is something that I was able to make only after 3 years in school. These are, I'd say, two of my best works. The one on the right is my most recent oil painting, and the one on the left I created, I believe, either freshman or sophomore year. I love eyes and I love emotions, as you can tell, and it's kind of crazy. It's like when I finished the one on the right, I stood staring at it and I was looking at it and I couldn't believe that came from my hand, just because I never think I'm good enough. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with this. You never think you're talented or your stuff is any good. But then when you actually get into it and apply yourself, I can't believe that I've gotten to the point where I am today, just starting out using only watercolors and acrylics. Yeah, and I think that's, yeah.
Thank you, Anastasia. That was fantastic. So great to have you in my class. Congratulations. So I guess I'll have to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Chinese, and my father had a Chinese hand laundry in the Bronx, and he really wanted for all the children to do well in school. And I was supposed to go to one of the big academic schools in the city. So I tried for Stuyvesant High School, but my English was not good enough to get in there. So I tried for and was accepted at the High School of Art and Design. So let me just start with that. The next image, please. So I basically goofed off for the first 3 years of art and design. And then when I became a senior, I stumbled into an oil painting class where I was learning how to paint from life. And the painting on the left-hand side is one of the paintings, my more successful pieces while I was a senior in high school. And my hand needed to be steady, so you could see how on the right-hand side is worn out, where the painting is worn out right down to the gesso panel. That's me settling my pinky on top so I could paint in his glasses. And when I went to college, I went to Parsons School of Design. I was basically a pretty difficult student because I was really wanting to paint. And when I finally graduated from Parsons, I was able to create a body of work that was very personal. So on the right-hand side is a painting of a couple of kids playing stickball in the Bronx. And with that, I was actually able to go into the profession with a bunch of paintings of the Bronx and try to work my way into getting commissions. This is one of my first major book covers for the New York Daily News. It was a painting of the South Bronx, and it was a series of illustrations about called a New Day in the Bronx. And I had to go there. I was working part-time at Pearl Paints, and I wound up having to get enough money to go up there to take photographs and use the photographs to create the painting. And I was really proud of the way it came out, and because it was my very first commission. And even though it got on the cover of the New York Daily News, my parents reserved their judgment because while they were happy to see it, they were worried about when I was going to get my next job, which they were right to be worried. And they're always going to worry. Quite a few years later, I'm going to say about 10, 15 years later, I started doing a lot of work on the computer. And this is a result of one of the projects I did when I was going for my master's in Syracuse University. I was asked to create a body of work of a single subject matter. And I thought, well, instead of doing something that I really, really love, let me do something I really, really hate. Penn Station. And Penn Station used to be a magnificent building, and I never saw it. So I figured I was going to use my research abilities to try to craft together enough photographs to resurrect an image that I never actually saw. So this is a scene of the opening of the original Penn Station. And for those of you that know the station, it's hard to believe that when you first get out of the train, you used to be able to see the sky. Kind of heartbreaking. And this piece is a recent commission I was actually able to do, working with FIT alum, one of the star alum from the interior design department, Tony Chi. And he had asked for me to create a series of paintings for a new hotel in Hong Kong, Rosewood Hotels. And without any art direction at all, I was only asked to just go there and explore and discover different aspects of Hong Kong that caught my eye. And my only art direction was that I could not do anything corny or touristy, which, considering it was the first time in China, nothing looked corny, everything looked fantastic. So I think that for me, if you were to compare this to some of the early paintings I did in art and design, when I was in art and design, I was really just trying to capture what I saw. But as I got older, I was more willing to experiment with getting away from rendering and trying more to use color and shape to evoke a particular mood, a quietness. And so this is an example of the work that have been more recent, some of my more fine artwork. I'm kind of giving myself the time to try to create artwork just for myself and not for a particular client. And I I came across all these photographs. Actually, the Hong Kong project was so exhausting, I kind of got burned out doing it, that I hadn't picked up the brush in about a year. And so at the end of one spring semester, I knew I wanted to do something, but I wasn't really sure what. And my wife recommended I just stretch a bunch of canvases just to have in the studio. So I did that, and I looked at some old photographs. I came across these photographs of a trip to the Jersey Shore, and I did this painting of the fishing boat. So this is the beginning of a series of works about Barnegat Light down in New Jersey. And I will be taking a sabbatical in the spring, where I hope to be able to continue painting more for myself. And that's going to be quite fun. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, William, and thank you all for sharing your stories with us today. There are comments in the chat, of course, remarking on the work, how beautiful they are, gorgeous, also beautiful. There is one question for Jason. Jason, what is your website? It's at jasonraish.com. I have a question for you. Is there any project, any dream project that any of you would love to work on in the future?
Yeah, I would love to do something with the Criterion collection, like a DVD box set art or something. They make amazing stuff. They have amazing movies in their library, but you know, I don't know if that's going to happen. I've hit up their creative director a few times and with no luck, so who knows?
Thank you. Rebekie, were you going to answer also?
Yeah, for me, because I'm doing background stuff, I see so many really amazing queer-centered cartoons these days. And so I'm really hoping to get onto one of those projects, you know, the next Steven Universe, the next She-Ra kind of thing.
Great, thank you. Anastasia, what are your hopes after graduation?
I'm in the middle of transitioning between jobs as a graphic designer, so I have a more stable job, but I'm pursuing the children's book market, and if I had to name a dream, it would be to write and illustrate my own children's book and then get the Caldecott.
Oh, that's big, aiming for the sky. That's
Yeah.
Here's a question. If any of you would like to share, when you look at your previous artwork, do you feel you wish you could have done it differently? And how does that affect your future art? Anyone can take that.
Yeah, I guess, sure. I wish I could have done it differently, but I don't know if I really have any regrets. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't make all of those I don't even know if they're mistakes, but you know, if I didn't go through all that crappy art that I made before now, then I wouldn't be here. So I don't know if I regret it, but yeah, sure, I see it, and I'm always looking at my past art and thinking like, oh, what, I could have done that differently, but that's okay.
Thanks, Jason.
As a teacher, I like to share the mistakes that I've made as an illustrator, and I share that with my class, almost like as a cautionary tale. Because I think that a lot of times when you are evolving, you're really just trying on different things just to see what works for you. And in my case, you know, I did this one thing where my entire illustration portfolio was just cityscapes, and I wasn't able to get any work with the cityscapes. And so someone told me that if I really wanted to get a commission, I need to do portraits, and I could paint, but I need to do a portrait of someone famous. And so at the time, I just did a painting of Ronald Reagan. I stuck it in my portfolio. So my early portfolio was the cityscapes, Ronald Reagan. And it wasn't working. I couldn't figure out why. and one time, and this is a very quick story, one time I showed it to an art director in Time magazine, and the art director is going through this, cityscapes, Ronald Reagan, and the art director stopped and looked at that piece. And then he didn't even look up at me. He just looked at the painting of Ronald Reagan, and he said to the portfolio, "I know why you did what you did, but I wish you hadn't done that."
Wow.
And I was mortified. But I told that story to my class because it was like the mistake that I made was not that I just did that one piece. The mistake was that I only did, my mistake was not that I just did Ronald Reagan, was that the mistake was that I had 6 cityscapes, but I only had 1 portrait. And if I really wanted to get into that business, I probably need to do 12 of them and then choose the 6 best. So I share those kinds of mistakes because that's how we all learn. So anyway, I didn't mean to take over, sorry.
No, that's so great.
I also, oh, sorry.
I see a question for Rebekie. For those looking to get into the entertainment industry for background work, what are some of the things you recommend to include in their portfolios?
I mean, show as much as you can that you understand perspective, that you understand composition and lighting, and that you understand staging. You know, it's not just doing a plein air painting, it's also showing that you understand that, you know, characters are going to move through the space, that the space has character. But ultimately, when you're starting out, as long as you prove that, you know, you can draw objects in 3 dimensions, that will do the bulk of the work for you. So just make sure that people know that you can draw in perspective, you can draw a chair from several angles, you can draw a wacky chair, you can draw a regular chair, and everything in between. Drafting, learn how to draw. Gotta learn how to draw.
Thank you. Jason, I have a question. There's a question for you. You spoke about getting your first commissions. Simon wants to ask how you even located the emails to reach out to those directors again. You don't have to give a he doesn't want a massive explanation, but how did that come about? You're muted, Jason.
I graduated in 2006, so that was, you know, in the super early days of social media. So, but initially, you know, Barnes and Noble, looking at the mastheads in magazines, looking at art directors' names and who was art directing stuff for like Society of Illustrators shows, and then also database, art director database services like Agency Access. Maybe they're the only game in town now, I don't know, but Agency Access. And now, of course, social media, just seeing who's working with who, and people are moving around all the time and jumping from magazine to magazine or whatever. But and it's easy to, you know, figure out the format of email addresses. So that's not very hard to figure out. And LinkedIn also. So there's like a super triangulation of different sources to figure out where art directors are even working these days because they jump around so much. And there's even an art director from a huge magazine in here right now that I work with. So they're everywhere. Anyway, that was a long explanation. So.
Thank you very much. Rebekie, how can one practice lighting? Besides looking at other pieces, where can you learn which rules to follow, etc.?
You are in the perfect environment right now at this moment to practice lighting, because there is lighting all around you. And you know, you just have to find what inspires you. And there's no like quick cheat. There's no like way around it. You just have to sit down, take a lemon, put it on your desk, take out your paints, and paint that lemon. And that's it. That's how you learn. There's no magical trick. There's no secret other than practice and putting in the hours, and just working it out until your brain understands, like William was saying, the muscle memory, and then you can start like getting a little weird. But until you understand that, you know, the light hits the lemon from this side and it casts the shadow and there's a second shadow on the back, then once you get that, you've got everything. You're done. You're a master.
Can I jump in on that one? Because Rebekie it's really great, the comment about the lemon, and absolutely you should do that. And to dovetail into that, you may also want to try to make up the light on something also. Because if you're going to try to, let's say you have a painting of a lemon where light goes in one direction, Now try to do the painting where the light is coming from behind, figure out what the rim light would look like. The fact that you're trying to figure this out means that you're testing what it is you expect something to look like. And then when you see it for the very first time, then you realize, oh, that's what I missed, which is really kind of interesting. So it's a little bit of both, paint from observation, and then just try to figure it out on your own too.
That is a really good point. And actually, that's a really good animation exercise if you want to go into background paint. Get that lemon and paint it in moonlight, paint it during the day, paint it on fire.
Yeah.
And then, you know, show people that you understand all forms of lighting if painting is your goal.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions, but there is a comment from Dean Troy Richards from the School of Art and Design, thanking you all for being here today. He enjoyed seeing your work and hearing about your ideas and experiences. He says you're all very talented illustrators, and he looks forward to following your careers and seeing you in person on campus soon.
Yes, soon, hopefully.
Yeah. If there are no more questions, does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say before we end this session?
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I just want to add that this is the last talk of our artist lecture series for the semester. We will be coming back again next semester, so look for our emails. And thank you all who've participated repeatedly in these talks. We've had a lot of fun doing them.
That's great. Thank you.